Hey, what's going on, my beautiful people? This is your certified life and relationship coach, Coach Court. In today's live session, we're going to be talking about signs that you are emotionally attached. Now, yeah, we could talk. We can go on and on about emotional attachment, about emotional detachment. But it's so interesting because I was talking to a client this morning. And I wanted to just go a little bit more in depth and talk more about this on my live session today. Now, before I get into all of that good information, that good content, I want to make sure that you guys are aware of the services that I provide. Um, I have my membership program right here on YouTube. You can go to my website for individual coaching sessions or email consults. That's all there on www.fruitfulseeds.com. And if you're not a subscriber, please do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. It kind of helps me out, gives back to the community, pushes this content out to other people who are interested in knowing about emotional attachment. And there's so many people in this world that don't know about things that I talk about, mental health issues, different ways of growing and healing and becoming more, other areas of your life too, financial literacy, spiritual growth, all those different aspects. So yeah, go ahead and share this feed, like the feed, and that'll help me out big time. So emotional attachment, we're going to talk about some signs that you are emotionally attached to someone. And it's kind of a place where it can get real debilitating. It can get crippling because you literally have no control over yourself. Wait a minute, let me switch my mic here. I think I may have the wrong mic. All right. Is this better? Can you guys hear me better? Put a 1 in the chat. If you can hear me better, put a 1 in the chat. There most likely is a big difference there. So happy Monday. There's a way to kick it off. Just want to just give you guys some motivation for the day and give you something. I know here in Wisconsin, it is Central Time. You guys may be on lunch break over in Cali. I'm sure you guys, it's really early there. But I want to talk about, emotional attachment, those signs here. All right, let's get to it. I was talking to a client and I was telling her, like, even myself, I have my Instagram, which is Coach Court. I am Coach Court. And it kind of dawned on me this morning that the things that I post, it's basically me journaling to myself. There's a saying that I never forgot, which was, you teach best what you most need to learn. And she was giving me an example of something that she went through where, you're teaching something that you need to learn yourself, what you're going through, your experience. And I'm like, it's kind of cool because I preach all the time that people should do journaling and they should be taking down their thoughts, journaling about their experience, what they're going through. And that's basically what my Instagram is. It's basically me telling myself things that I need to hear and telling other people, it just resonates with other people. So the reason I wanted to, do this today was because sometimes you get caught up when you get emotionally attached, all logic goes out the window. I call that the mind, the heart, and the gut alignment. So sometimes your heart may be telling you something that the mind is just not going for, or vice versa. Your mind and your heart is always going to be at war with each other. Logically, you know what you should be doing, but feelings wise, emotionally, you can't do it. And your gut is always going to be telling you, like, hey, fellas, we should probably get in alignment with each other. But usually your gut is going to win. There was I think it was an article that I read a while ago that said that, over in Eastern philosophy, they have a your gut is like an emotion, and it's always going to be pointing you in the right direction, essentially. So if you can learn to, like, really hone in on what your gut is telling you and align that with your heart and your mind, people can't do what their mind is usually telling them to do. Because once, like when I give advice, it's really hard to practice what you preach sometimes, because if you can give some of the best advice to your friends and your family members because you're not emotionally invested in them. But as soon as you are emotionally invested in that person, that's when it's going to get really tough to make the logical and the decision that you need to make, the decision that's best for you. I wrote a quote today on Instagram actually, um, that talks about this, and it goes, sometimes the right decisions will hurt more than the wrong ones. So thanks for the like, everybody. Thanks, Wood. I appreciate you shouting me out and helping me get the channel boosted here. I don't know if it's working on my end. All right, so I wrote down just a couple signs that you're emotionally attached. And if you've been watching me long enough, you know what I'm going to say already, but I'm going to say it anyway because you have to hear a certain thing over and over and over again before you finally get it. All right. The first one is when you get emotionally attached to someone, it is going to be hard to let that person go. So if you're finding it hard to let a certain person go, most likely you are emotionally attached to them. I say almost guaranteed. Because when you're not emotionally attached to something or someone, um, it'll be so much easier to let them go. Like you think about the show, like Hoarders and stuff, which is I think is always an interesting show to watch. Just how people can build like psychological, um, well, emotional attachment to certain things within their house. You know, certain items and stuff. And it was I can remember back, it was like 6 or 7 years ago, back when I used to play fantasy football. No, I'm dating myself. Nope, it's probably a decade ago. Sheesh, a long time ago. There was a guy that was in our draft, and he was part of the fantasy football league, and he would try his hardest to get this one guy that he was a huge fan of, and he would draft him in the first round. And we're like, dude, you're tripping. Like, you need to be picking someone else that's going to be whatever. If you guys are into fantasy football or anything like that, you know what I'm talking about. So he picked this guy way ahead of time, you know, which everybody's like, okay, fine, you're just going to waste a pick. And then within like 2 or 3 weeks, he had him on a trading block. He was ready to trade him. I'm like, dude, you fought for this guy. What are you doing? And he's like, look, man, everything's tradable. Everything's disposable. And I'm like, that's kind of a good way to look at things. So basically, just you can't form an emotional attachment to things and items and people, but that is the human experience. You know, that's what love is, getting emotionally attached in a healthy way, but not in an unhealthy way. So the very first way is you have a hard time letting that person go. Now, if you wake up, think about it. If you woke up every morning and someone wished you good morning every morning, and you guys had like these routines, these rituals that you go through together, like maybe you watch TV shows together, maybe you watch the news or whatever, you're sharing your little nuances of your day with that person. It's going to be very hard to let that person go when you have an emotional attachment, because then there's going to be this deficit in your life, and trying to replace that deficit is hard. I mean, I wrote a quote a few months back that talks about that, said that same thing. Um, it's not every day that you meet your best friend. And there are so many people who take that for granted, and they just kind of just let people walk in and out of their life, like really good people, and they don't sit and they don't fight for those relationships because they don't form an emotional attachment. You know, as you know, those people who are more love avoidance, they try their hardest not to form an emotional attachment because it makes them feel vulnerable and weak. When they finally do attach to someone, they're bearing their heart on their shoulders, you know, wearing their heart on their shoulders, I guess you should say. So that's the first sign, is if you're finding a very hard time to like not be with this person anymore, then you formed an emotional attachment to them. The next one is you take on their moods. Like if you're around someone so much and you form an emotional attachment with them, their moods will be your moods. And this is why when people are coming out of a relationship that were with people who are narcissistic or have high levels of narcissism, and their moods are constantly going up and down, they're going to find it very hard to go into other relationships and be healthy in those relationships, because they're so used to the up and downs and the highs and lows of someone that most likely was abusive to them, most likely got off of controlling your mood, making sure that you're feeling exactly what they're feeling. Or if you're on an emotional high, they're going to make it their darndest to bring you down so they don't have to deal with, you know, someone who's in a better state mentally and emotionally than they are. So, all right, coffee break. So Put a one in the chat if you guys are drinking coffee. If you're drinking coffee, tea. All right, one for coffee, two for tea, three for water. If you're drinking that, make sure you guys are intaking enough water. I need to do that myself. I know it sucks here because I'm here in Wisconsin. I see one of my guys in here. I just showed him, showed him what the weather's like here. Big time snow coming down, but nothing sticking. But that's neither here nor there. I need to drink more water because it's so dry out. But you need to get your coffee kick in too. One in the chat, two in the chat, three in the chat. All right. Thank you. Nice sweater. Thank you. I appreciate it. I relate to hoarders in my relationships. I like them. I'm attached to garbage. That's kind of funny. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, you form this emotional attachment. And hoarders, like those people, they struggle to let things go because they have like shirts that their cousin gave them before they died, or garbage like food, because they feel like, if I throw these things away, I'll most likely not have it again. They're collectors of things, and it takes a lot of counseling and therapists to come in and being able to uproot those ways of thinking, being able to uproot that emotional attachment they'd have to those things and people, which is crazy if you think about it, how we go through life just attaching to things and trying to collect as many people, as many items. We always got to have the biggest, the next greatest, the best. And this is why so many people get divorced. Like they're thinking that, all right, there's always something better than this. There's always like the next greatest. If I got the 55-inch for Black Friday, I need to get the 70-inch for Christmas. It's kind of a sad way to think about how we just collect things. And being a coach that coach all across the world, I get to see different walks of life. And I can tell you the way that we live here in the West, it's so different than other places. Like we look at possessions and form an attachment to things as like a sense of fulfillment, but it's really not, because when we lose those things, we're going to feel very empty. And it usually happens around the holidays, because guess what? If you guys didn't know, 2 weeks rolling into Christmas is like one of the peak breakup seasons. This is when people are letting people go, which is crazy. So I guess may the odds be ever in your favor, if you guys understand that quote. Laugh at yourself. It's okay. I'm always laughing at myself. You know the saying, don't take life so seriously because you never make it out alive. My ex told me last night he's hurting like because we're coming up on a year and he feels I haven't been fighting for us. He wants me to be the one to tell him how I feel and initiate combos. And you are still in communication with him a year later. He says that he gets it. That's how I needed to heal from my childhood, but he said he doesn't understand. When it's hard for people to understand. Just like it's hard for men to understand what women go through as far as their situations they got going on. It's hard for men to understand that. Just like a person who has a different wired brain to understand what a person who has like an avoidant personality is going through. And that's what I'm here for. I'm here to try to bridge that gap, be that mediator. And it just kind of goes in alignment with what I've always done with my career paths. So I can relate to hoarders, and it reveals so much when they don't show any. All right. So I have that they feel their moods pretty intense. You feel the other person moves pretty intensely, where if they're in a bad mood, most likely you're going to be in a bad mood, or you could be that person to try to flip it around, make them feel better, help them boost their moods. You have any questions? Go ahead and spew them out. I'm here to coach you guys. I'm here to have coffee with you. I hope you're going to have a, magical, beautiful week this week. It's going to be a rough one. Like I just said, there's going to be people who are going to be breaking up. I even joked with one of my friends today. I said, I think they put Christmas in them. Like, is Christmas a real thing? Of course, I know it is, but I like to challenge people's thoughts. I think they place Christmas in December as a natural antidepressant, but it usually doesn't even work because more people end up depressed in November, December than other years, which is crazy. I need a magical week. You got a magical week, brother, for sure. You manifest you manifest everything. The guy that's sitting on the street with his dog, homeless, happy as can be, you know, because he knows that, hey, I'm alive. This is another day. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful week. So you manifest it all. All right, here we go. Questions. I told him love isn't perfect. It's work and full of ups and downs. Absolutely. He said, I guess love really doesn't overcome all. Ah, love. I posted this on TikTok and got a lot of feedback from it. Love is an emotion. Love is something that you have to consciously feel. You can't. You don't just fall out of love with people. It's going to always be there. There's always going to be love there, and it's just going to be different type of love. It's going to, I guess, morph itself into a different love. Because it doesn't just come and go like that. You're going to always have a piece of that person in your heart. The old saying, "Oh, there's a special place in my heart." It's true. That is, but they just no longer want the romantic part of it. My avoidant partner says he is no longer emotionally attached to his soon-to-be ex-wife, separated for 2 years now. But he says they are best friends and talk weekly. Well, that's kind of contradictory if you actually like think about that. How can you not be um, emotionally attached to someone that you consider yourself best friends with? I think those are kind of synonymous. What do you think? If you put a one in the chat, if you think that's synonymous to be best friends with someone and also be emotionally attached, I could be wrong, but I really think that that's the case. I think he may be selling you a line, but I don't know. Don't quote me on that one. Maybe it's a way of him trying to make you feel comfortable, but also being respectful to his feelings that he had for her, um, with no kids. Yeah, that would be a red flag for me, if I'm being honest. There needs to be some boundaries set into play. And the fact that you actually said something about it lets me know that this may be a point of contention in your relationship. So, yeah, for sure. It's a red flag. Any more questions? So I used to put people's face up, on the screen because this type of streaming app that I use is it's nice to be able to put people out in the spotlight. But also I want to make sure that I'm keeping it private for you guys and keep it anonymous. That was something that I had a poll put up, voting on if people like the new format. And I think the reason being they didn't like it was because, it kind of takes away the anonymous part, which is it's huge for YouTube. I think it's a very smooth platform that they have here, being able to keep people's um, information private and making sure that it's an anonymous, unless you want to, show who you are. X started lurking to social media during the holidays. It was tough to see and to keep up no contact, but I did. I am empathetic and always want to wish the best, but this time I didn't respond. Good for you. I know that's a hard thing to do. Very tough because, um, like I said, you have this emotional attachment to someone. It's sorry, I don't believe you can be friends with a long-term partner until a significant amount of time has passed. True that. I am a firm believer in that also. But I don't know if time is like the factor here. I think it has something to do with healing. If you haven't healed yourself, if you haven't been able to recreate what that relationship is going to look like, because there's always going to be one person in that situation that's going to have other intentions, hidden agendas, or they have not healed themselves. Now, and that's where I talked about this the other day about micro cheating. That's when that is introduced. Like you're going to be micro cheating if you are, still in contact with that person. And it's just, what's going to happen is the people that you're seeing, or if you do move on and find a new person, that's going to be a problem. That just introduces a whole lot of um, unnecessary drama into the relationship. What do you guys think? I don't know at all. I'm here to learn with you guys. I'm here to just be the moderator in this room. That's it. We got 16 people in here. Get the likes up, people, so we can get more people in here asking questions. The more people ask questions, the more people that show up in the room is the more free coaching you guys get. Because we're all connected. We're all connected in more ways than not. And the human experience is all the same. What we struggle with, what we have to overcome, it's all the same everywhere. I'm all over the world, literally. And it's all the same. So the more questions that you have, that's like a commonly asked question, then I can answer it for everyone that's going to see this video, years into the future as well as right now. So ask away. Don't be shy. And at the least, go ahead and share this, like it. All right, I'm catching up. Glenn, thanks for the super sticker, brother. Glenn, that's my boy. If I can meet that guy in person, it'll be pretty cool. And that's the crazy thing too. Like, I can remember back in the day when my mom used to, um, she used to be kind of baffled at the people that I'd be playing with online on Xbox or PlayStation or whatever. She'd be like, what language is he speaking? Like, oh, he's speaking this language. What? Like, how? That's the internet, Mom. That's the beauty of the internet. And now it's just turning into something totally different. It's evolving. Like it's connecting us in places, in dark little crevices that, would never had any type of voice or any type of microphone to speak from. So it's so cool to just be on this journey and to come across people like Glenn and like Simone and Rachel and Christine, all you guys, Kim. It's cool. Wuta, of course. I'm talking to guys, but I'm not trying to date anyone. I let them know that. So are you still going to counseling and therapy and stuff and making sure that you're doing your part to prepare yourself for the next level in your life, the next journey that you're going to go on? I think I'm getting a lag here, but anyway. World tour coach. Yeah, it's definitely a lag. I think when kids are involved, it's more complicated, but I could never be friends with my current ex. Way too much chemistry. It would absolutely be a threat to new partners. Yes, there is always a gray area, and that kids are the biggest gray area of all. And I was actually editing a video. I do like video editing and stuff too, and help people grow their YouTube channels. And I was working with one channel, and the topic of the video was how to divorce and have a business together. So essentially, your business in that relationship is your kid. So when you divorce, like, how do you do that in a healthy manner? Who gets what? Because it's just basically like child placement. Like, who gets this asset? Who gets that asset? So it's hard when you have kids because you have so much more nuances to work out. Child placement, who gets the decision making, how we're going to split the holidays. It's a messy thing. It can be done, but usually it takes sometimes years for people to actually get it together, get it in order, where they're not emotionally charged anymore. And heading back to the topic, you're not emotionally attached to that person anymore. The old saying, the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. So it takes a long time for people to get to that indifferent state sometimes. And when you're dealing with someone who is heavily affected still emotionally attached and upset about everything, what I typically see, if I'm being 100% honest, which I always try to be, I typically see men that are struggling still become very toxic parents throughout that process. They either punish the child for the breakup, the divorce. They punish them by like not showing up and making false promises, or they run smear campaigns against the other parent, and which is totally toxic. But it's usually because they're still emotionally attached. They're not happy about the situation. And if you think about the statistics, 70 to 80% of the divorces are initiated by women. So maybe we need a coach to come along and just help them process their emotions and how they're going to move forward being a parent with someone that they're still in love with, that they didn't want the divorce from. All right, I think kids are involved. He loved this dress he saw me on IG and said, "I'm sure you got looks with that dress on." Yeah, that's just a way of him like tapping you on your shoulder, like, "Hey, guess what? I'm still here and I'm still watching." So he's keeping you emotionally in a relationship, but physically single. That's a hard place to be at. Can an avoidant be emotionally attached? Yes, I've seen it. I've seen them get emotionally attached. And the way that they show those emotional attachments is they'll start to rely on a person more. Like they'll ask them to do something for them, which is crazy. But that's a way that they show their vulnerability because they're so used to doing everything on their own, and they've gotten comfortable being that way, and they don't want to change. So when they are forming an emotional attachment to someone, they'll start asking them to do things for them, like, "Hey, can you do this for me?" or "Can you do that to me for me?" Or they'll start to give you little gifts. That's one of their top love languages. They'll start giving you little just cause gifts, and um, they'll start talking about moving in, or they may even move in with you. But yeah, they do form an emotional attachment. But there's something that happens usually that like triggers them. Even if they were starting to lean more towards secureness, there's something that usually comes along and triggers them back into there. Whether it's a person showing up differently than they were before, if they start to show up in an unhealthy, or an unsafe way, that's when you'll start to see them start to, detach themselves, or AKA deactivate from you. I think we were all right. So let me catch up here. Yes, I'm preparing myself. Can't avoid it. That's where clear boundaries come to play. Make sure there is no threat, even though there is chemistry. Clear boundaries are respectful to all parties. Absolutely. And I think this is something that, here in Wisconsin, when you go through a divorce, you have to like take this class. And it's been years now, but I think the class is called Remember the Children. And in that class, they talk about, do's and don'ts while you're going through a divorce and while you're co-parenting. And one of the things they talk about is make sure that you're not running smear campaigns against your ex, and um, make sure that you're keeping things respectful, and not exposing the kids to things that is unhealthy for a developing brain, especially when they're so young. And honestly, even when they're older, like that toxic stuff the toxic behaviors that you show is going to deeply affect them. And most people don't really realize it, or they just don't care to realize it. Because I don't know, at some point, I think a lot of parents get to the point where they feel like, all right, well, you're old enough to understand. But just because they understand doesn't mean it doesn't emotionally affect them. But I'm gonna close this out. Feel free to donate to the channel. I'm pretty sure I have those links in the description. If you can't afford a session, if you want to say thank you, buy me a cup of coffee. I don't have that anymore, but I used to. Um, yeah, feel free to say thank you in that way, or just share the content, like the comment, like the content, or comment in the comment section, because that helps boost the analytics also and push this to more people. But I'm going to roll. I have a session at 1 I forgot about, but I love you guys. Thank you. Namaste. I hope you guys have a beautiful week. Enjoy the weather, whether it's good, whether it's bad. you're still alive. Love you guys.